Hey everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. As many of you know, if you've been with my channel for some time, but some of you may not, we have a lot of new subscribers here. Thank you so much. Welcome. While we mostly do fashion and beauty here on this channel, we do occasionally take a moment to check up on the gossip of the royal family and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I am trying to keep them to Tuesdays though, so if you do not like gossipy type of videos or newsy types of videos about these people or this group of people, then skip Tuesdays. Just look the other way on Tuesdays. Fashion editions always come out every Friday, and there's lots of bonus videos every single week. So don't go anywhere, but if you don't like these types of videos, that's totally okay. I will see you in the next one. So for those of you who would like to hang out and chat about this, today I wanted to take a look at this very interesting development. Interesting in my opinion. Predictable, yes. Harry had a podcast idea to interview controversial figures about how their childhood shaped them. And I wanted to just talk about that a little bit because what I took away from it is where exactly is the personal responsibility falling here in this situation, and for many of us. This is something that kind of is relatable, believe it or not. I would like to read a couple of excerpts from this article with you. It's recapping the fact that Netflix is on shaky ground and the ending of the Spotify deal. Last week, a Netflix source told the paper that the lemon has been fully squeezed. When it came to Harry and Meghan producing content for the streamer, Meghan, one source said, lives in her own bubble and does not seem to have grasped the economic reality. The source said that there is a less friendly attitude from some at the top, and the feeling is that the lemon has been fully squeezed. The big bucks Harry and Meghan signed on for do not exist today. Accurate. To add to their humiliating broadcasting woes, it has emerged that Meghan wrote Taylor Swift a personal letter asking her to appear on her now-canceled Spotify podcast Archetypes. Pop star declined through a representative. Obviously. Good choice, Taylor. The news follows Bloomberg's report that Prince Harry had hoped to make a podcast talking to guests like Vladimir Putin, Mark Zuckerberg, and Donald Trump about their early formative years and how those experiences resulted in the adults they are today. Another show would have looked at fatherhood, while another, on major societal conversations from climate change to religion, would have featured Pope Francis. None came to be. The detailed Wall Street Journal report charts Prince Harry and Meghan's frustrated efforts to launch themselves as Hollywood players. The Wall Street Journal said Harry and Meghan's Hollywood foray is looking like a flop, with more cancellations and rejections than produced shows. There has been a graveyard of projects that never came to be, including an animated children's show called Pearl, canceled by Netflix, as well as at least 2 TV ideas that the streaming service rejected within the past year. Big surprise. So the first thought that I had was about this line here where it's talking about how he thought he could talk to these controversial figures about their early formative years and how those experiences resulted in the adults they are today. It's a bit odd, it's a bit presumptuous that he would think that these people would also blame their controversial status, I guess, on their childhood. Harry blames his controversial status and his failures to be successful or accepted on his childhood. And it's clear through his book, the parts of it that I did read, that he really does tend to gravitate towards blaming things on his childhood experiences and the way he grew up, and things that he cannot change. A lot of the times, there is a point in our young adulthood, if not by our teen years, that we learn everybody goes through challenges. Everybody has challenges. The key is what you do with those challenges and how you grow from them. What are you going to do with those challenges? All of us are born into a family, a situation, a life, a set of circumstances, a body. We're born into the color of hair and skin and eyes that we have, the structure of the body that we have, the gender that we have, and that's fine. You should never be treated differently based on any of those things that you cannot change. Never, ever. That would never be acceptable. We are all born into a family unit, a group, a life path to some degree that then we have to, at some point in our teen and young adulthood, decide what we're going to do with it. What are we going to do with the cards that were dealt? Where are we going to go from here? What are we going to take with us from our childhood that was good? And what are we going to learn from, change, or grow from that was not so great or that we didn't like? You kind of begin to gain that self-awareness and perspective. And as you get out into the world and you expand your understanding of the world around you and your community and your place in it all, what it's like to actually be an adult and live your own life independently and all of those things, at some point, you have to accept the childhood that you had, the family that you've come from, the life that you've had so far. Take with you the things that you liked, the things that were good, the things you enjoyed, the things that you feel connected with, and let the rest go. You have to process it and you have to move on from it. Nobody can stay stuck in their childhood woes or their young adulthood challenges. I'm not going to comment on Vladimir Putin, Mark Zuckerberg, or Donald Trump, but I'm not sure that they necessarily would be the best people to ask about creating that growth, since they have had a bit of a bumpy ride. I think that's a safe way to put it. They've had a bit of a bumpy ride. The point is that you are in charge of that. As you come into adulthood, you pick how your childhood will impact you. Some people really struggle with it. Difficult parts of your childhood do circle back around in your brain as it tries to process things that were profound to us or imprinted on us in some way or are difficult memories. That's natural. That's normal. That's your brain's attempt at processing that information or utilizing those emotions or accessing that time for some other reason. Your brain is just trying to process it and get it back into its filing cabinet, if you will. You can't let stuff that happened that you had little to no control over in your childhood be your identity as an adult. It doesn't make sense and it doesn't work from a psychological perspective. It would be very conflicting because the way you live as an adult is completely different to the way you live as a child. You have less agency or no agency as a child. You are doing completely different things with your life as a child. You can't stay stuck there in any way, emotionally, mentally, physically. Obviously, you physically grow out of it. You have to also emotionally and mentally grow out of these things as well. Not to say you leave it behind and forget about it, but rather you take it and decide what you're going to do about it and how you're going to use it for growth as a grown-up. It's sort of highlighted to me this core issue that Prince Harry seems to keep putting out into the world. I am not playing psychologist. I am just an observer and thinking about it objectively. He keeps putting this stuff about his childhood out there and he keeps constantly fixating on it. But he's not talking about it in that sort of capacity of gaining your strength and your inner compass through coping with those things in a healthy manner. He's not coming at it from that space. He comes at it from a blaming sort of angle most of the time, that this is why these things have happened. And we also know that he has a history of not coping with those things very well from his own words and from verified, corroborated facts. Okay, because I get accused sometimes in these types of videos of just taking the tabloid's word for things, and I am not. But he has said himself that he struggled with substance use or abuse. So he's not necessarily coping with these things very, very well. And, you know, he talks about going through therapy and things like that a lot, and you would think that at some point he would get there. Maybe he's just not there yet. Everybody's journey is their own, of recognizing that there is a very distinct difference between, this may sound harsh, but using childhood problems, issues, etc. as an excuse for poor choices or behaviors, or blaming it for circumstances and thinking that that's why everything is in your life, versus that aspect of personal responsibility, of turning something into a point of growth, character development, etc. It's so essential. Everybody goes through those challenges throughout childhood and adulthood, in life in general. They don't stop once you become a grown-up. Those are the things that make you who you are when you decide how you're going to deal with them and how you're going to cope with them. And the people who I find to be some of the best people to look up to, the best role models, are the people who look at challenges or problems with a problem-solving mentality and looking at everything as something to overcome. There's some famous quote about it. Help me out in the comments. One person will learn from it, look at it objectively, examine what could have been done differently on their side and others. They will look at what mistakes were made by them or others, how they can avoid that same thing happening in the future, what changes you may implement, while another person might whine about it or spiral or complain years on, potentially, get angry or rageful, lash out, blame others, rob themselves of that growth and development. And I'm not saying that first person had no emotions about what they experienced. However, they had their emotions, processed them, and said to themselves, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to let them haunt me forever? Am I going to do nothing? Am I going to complain about it? Choose something constructive. Not just because that's what you should do, but because that's what's healthiest. Everybody deserves to have their emotions about what happened. You can't stop there. You can't just stop after you've been upset about something. You'll never heal fully and grow. Part of why healing can be stunted or stopped or frozen in place is because the person didn't get to solve that problem, so the brain tries to repeatedly solve that problem over and over because it's a source of discomfort. It would be like if you had a bad splinter and you cried about it, but you didn't take the splinter out, clean it, and put on a Band-Aid. It would be like that. Your brain will continually remind you of that splinter and that problem until you actually fix it. And so you can't stop at the emotional processing. You have to continue on so that your brain will let it go a little bit or let it fade into the background memories that you have. And we've seen that Harry and Meghan tend to take the approach of pity me and not navigate their problems. It seems like they're missing the point. You're not just a victim of your childhood with absolutely no power to become your own adult. As I said, I'm not sure that people who don't exactly have impeccable character, if Harry's hypothesis is correct, these people kind of failed to grow and evolve from their childhood challenges. So maybe they're not the best people to interview for such a podcast idea. So it's good that they shot that podcast idea down. You take what's good and leave what's bad, and you learn from all of it. That's just my 2 cents on it. I don't know what you guys think. It was kind of a bit odd, and it seemed a bit stunted coming from somebody who has talked about how much therapy he's been through. But there's also the part of the article talking about the graveyard of projects that they've left behind, and that there's been more projects that did not work out or got canceled, rejected, that they have actually successfully accomplished, which is very par for the course for somebody who tends to be higher in narcissism or lacks drive or realism or awareness, even just awareness of how things actually work. Like Prince Harry, never built anything on his own, which I believe is the key problem here, that, teens and young adults and, young people need to learn what it takes to really make something themselves. Like build some shelves or build a table or chairs or learn how to cook or take basic maintenance for your car, start a business, something. Young adults and teenagers have to learn what it actually takes to make something and get an idea up and off the ground and into reality and fruition. And you're forced to do that to some extent in school with you have to write papers or do projects or build dioramas or something like that. But that is not the same because you're being forced to do it. To do something that's this is my idea and I want to make it happen is a different level of drive and discipline. Making something yourself cleaning it up and viewing its imperfections is an invaluable practice that we really need to start at a younger age to be able to be fully successful and capable of doing those sorts of things as adults. Huge, lofty ideas and litany of projects Harry and Meghan publicized and sold to Netflix and Spotify and the publishers are imbalanced because they came up with dramatically impractical or severely boring ideas. They have bad ideas and they have no idea how to actually execute their plans or make something actually happen. So therefore they're failing. It's not a big surprise, but it is probably in part due to the fact that Harry did have such a cushy upbringing. Both of them seem to be high in some of those traits that would make big promises, low delivery very probable. There's this combination of a narcissistic tendency, and I'm just theorizing here, please don't come for me, to make promises or spout ideas, talking a lot and doing only a little, big ideas with little to nothing behind it, and paired up with a lack of competency to actually accomplish much. It takes a massive amount of drive, discipline, and effort to do things like this, not to mention a bit of talent would be good. It kind of just shows how little Harry has actually contributed to making Invictus. Clearly, much was borrowed from the Warrior Games, which is no secret, and is completely fine. It's a very noble idea, but the work was done by his personal secretaries and assistants at the time. Little was done by Harry besides being briefed and performing a little bit of publicity tasks here and there. So really, it's no wonder that these ideas didn't pan out too good. Talked about in a previous video about how Meghan's book was actually not good from a perspective of reviewing a children's book for what it is or reviewing any book for what it is. It just wasn't that great of a book. And so it just shows some of that inflated sense of self paired up with the lack of ability to actually accomplish things and get it done has left us where we are, or rather left them where they are. Well, that's all I have to say about that article that I read, and I hope that you guys didn't mind this video today. Leave what you think in the comments, and I will be back with more content in the next few days. I have fashion editions coming up. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Don't forget to check out the Happy Day merchandise to remind yourself to have a happy day every day. And if you are interested in any of the products or things that I am wearing today or used to get ready, then you can check the description box or the products tab. A little shopping bag comes up in one corner of the screen to see a little bit more about that. Thank you so much again, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the like button if you enjoyed today's video and share it with anybody you think would enjoy it. I appreciate each and every one of you so much, and I hope that you have a happy day today. I will see you next time.